Hi guys, I'm here with Marius and he's gonna show us his Ghostrick deck profile.
So, for many years since Shadow Spectre, when this deck was released, and Primal Origin, people are wondering what the fuck is the win condition of Ghostrick deck. This is the win condition of the Ghostrick deck. This is the only reliable win condition this deck has. It's a themed floodgate, and your opponent cannot flip summon. So this is what we have built this deck around. I have not seen personally a better Ghostrick build, so if you're trying to build Ghostricks for fun, of course, try this one. So, we're starting with 3 Mary. When you take damage, if effect or battle damage, you can discard it and special summon Ghostrick in face up or face down defense. It floats, it's pretty good. You can also search it with Parade. For the other level ones, 1 Spectre. You can summon him off of Gianchi if he's attacked. He can search him, he summons himself and he draws a card. Lantern, we wanted negation that does not put the monster face down because of links, of course. So we chose him instead of Jack Frost, but he's not the best because you don't quite take many attacks, especially on the mid game. So we are only playing 1. 2 Doll. When she flips herself, she has a mandatory effect to set all the monsters that she can, of course, face down on the end phase, and you summon a monster according to the with level equal to the monsters that were flipped face down. This is a mandatory effect, so it bypasses the. It can be a problem with this one because you need to control a face-up Ghostrick monster in order to for the floodgate effect to apply. So you need to play it right with the scares. This is one of the new cards, Ghostrick Fairy. It has a very good effect. It can come up, it can recur your resources, but we're only playing 1 because it's more of a card in the mid game. And the problem of Ghostrick is going to the mid game where you can win. So we're only playing 1, but it has come up. It's not that bad. It's pretty solid support, to be honest. 2 Stein. I'm sorry, 3 Stein. This is one of the best cards in the deck because when it attacks directly, it can search any Ghostrick spell trap card, which is the thing you want because all the spell traps are the good card in the deck, especially Scare. Also a very good card in the deck, 3 of Gianchi. It can, when it's flip summoned, or flipped in general, you can add a Ghostrick monster with level equal to the Ghostrick monsters you control.
Yeah, and it's equal or lower, so you can take like everything you want from level 3 or lower.
Yeah.
If you have 3 monsters.
When you're under pressure, you can search this one in order to special summon it, draw a card, and control the board with field spells as well. To Mummy. This has the Evil Swarm effect in order for the additional normal summon. You can only gain this effect once per turn, of course, and you can only summon dark monsters. He can help us go into Holocard in order to search with Gianchi, with Mischief, I'm sorry, and stuff like that. Ghoul. If you can make the matchup go to the mid game, usually more fun matchups, of course, because this is not a very competitive deck. You can apply his effect and maybe OTK as well. To Mansion. The Ghostrick field spells, all of them say that monsters cannot attack face down monsters, and it applies different effects when you're attacked or take damage. This one halves all the damage, which is pretty important, of course, because you're playing Ghostrick, so you don't want your opponent to be able to OTK you. Through a Mansion, you need to inflict 16,000 points of damage.
Yeah, and it's really good because it's not only for battle damage, it's for effect damage as well.
Yeah. Parade. This is the field spell that you want to have on the beginning of the game in order to start controlling what what damage your opponent can inflict to you. When your opponent attacks, it can search for a level 1 monster, for a Ghostrick monster in general, but you usually search for the level 1s. Because if you add something like Jack Frost, the attack has already been declared, so you cannot use it. We're usually adding Mary, so you take the damage, and then you send it to the graveyard, not special summon a card. Also, it's not once per turn, so if they attack multiple times, you can always search more cards.
Yeah, the thing though with that is that you cannot really damage the opponent.
Also, it searches a card, not a monster. Worth noting. We want to see more cards on the deck, so we're playing 3 Desires and an Upstart. We're trying to see as many cards as we can in order not to allow our opponent to do much before we can stop them. This is the floodgate on the deck. It doesn't allow your opponent to flip someone while you control a Ghostrick monster, so what you're doing is with Scare. Scare is an insane card. It can out Cosmodark Destroyer, for instance. It doesn't target. It outs monsters without putting them face down without targeting them or destroying them, of course. So along with this one, you can control the board, or if they have a monster on the extra monster zone, like Shadows, for instance, if they want to go into Gravity Controller, you can get them there. This is the only reason this deck has a chance of winning. This is also relatively new, Ghostrick Renovation. If you have a field spell on the field, you can take it to hand, activate another one from the deck, so you can switch between these two. If you want Parade or if you want Mansion, depends on what you have and what the game state is. Also, it has a grave effect that you can target one Ghostrick Axis monster you control and overlay it into another Ghostrick Axis monster. So you can play, let's say that we have an Owl card, for instance. Let me find it. And we use him to Axis summon into Mischief. We search a card, then we can use this one, banish it from the graveyard, in order to summon Dullahan, for instance. Those two float from the graveyard, they add the card to hand. It's usually Scare, most of the time. And then summon Mischief again, because her summon is not once per turn. There's no reason for it to be honest. Anyway, this is a pretty good card, it's pretty new as well. We're playing one Vanish. This is, you can reveal one Ghostrick card, and monsters at this turn, Ghostrick cards and face down monsters cannot be targeted or be destroyed by card effects. This is pretty good. You can play around stuff like Twin Twisters, Storm, and stuff like that. Backrow removal that your opponent is going to side against you. It's only one of those because it doesn't come up very often. 3. Floodgate Trap Hole. When your opponent summons a monster, you put it face down and get rid of it for good. They usually cannot flip it face up again. So it gets rid of a problem and can, especially if you're playing first, they can stop the opponent before they make their plays. After that, we're playing 3 Drowning. All of the field spells make your opponent attack directly, so you can, even if you have monsters, this is always gonna be, most of the time, this is gonna be playable. Those could be, if you're playing, we're playing this deck on a fun format, so if you're trying to take it into a locals or anything, you should try Solemn Brigade instead of this. But for us, because there are not that many meta decks and stuff like that you need to be able to solemn their plays, or else you just lose, unfortunately. That's how the game is right now. So we're playing 3 Drowning in order to get rid of all the problems, and if your opponent wants to push you with damage, you just punish them. They usually don't play around it. It does come up. So, let's go to the extra deck. The most used card on any of Ghostricks on other side decks, extra decks, I'm sorry, used to be played in BA as well sometime. Alucard detaches, destroys a set card, and when it's sent to the graveyard, you can get back a card, any card. You can also recycle your traps on the graveyard or your Xyz if you need more. This is the best card in the deck, on the side deck, on the extra deck. It's Mischief, she can detach and search a card, not once per turn effect, and she's summoned on Ghostrick card.
Yeah, she's also Exodia though, right?
Yeah. So Cutebus. This is because we are playing Fairy, we decided to play one of these because the effect to local zone doesn't ever come up. But at least you can You can, if you don't want a doll to activate every turn, you can summon her and then actually summon a mischief on top of her, in order to stop the effect of doll, which is mandatory, from threatening your lock. Levier. If stuff is banished, you can bring it back. This and this are the cards that we use to destroy cards or destroy back row. Because if you play a control matchup, it might be harder to control the board. So if this is gone, if this is on the mid game, this is gone, you might want this one. After all, we do have a lot of space on the extra deck. To Dullahan, buffs itself by 200 for every Ghostrick card you control, and it can have an opponent's monster, and when it goes to the graveyard it also recurs a card back, like Alucard. The link monsters we're playing are pretty generic. This one are for those are for situational cards, not to out stuff you want to out. And which can recur the card back, and it's also the buff can come up, especially with Ghoul, and what you can do is not run out of resources, stuff like that. This is the best Ghostrick list we've come up with. I really like this deck. Of course, it's pretty rogue, as everyone knows. But if you want to piss some people off and try to not allow them to flip someone, you can try this list.
It's really fun for those who play it, at least.
Yeah, not for the opponent much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We hope you enjoy the list.
Okay, thank you.